And she said, what's the one thing that you can do to scale this business from 5 to 6 to 7 figures? Get that trash out of your life. You have legacies to build. That's part of being a badass world builder. We grew that business from 3.4 million to 17.1. You want to be the parent that's an ally. They don't need another friend. Toughest advice for the toughest businessmen: be relentless. 10 years ago, when I was running my Renegade Insurance marketing consulting company, I was providing a monthly paper and ink newsletter. I was doing monthly live webinar trainings, and I was hosting quarterly live masterminds. And I had the pleasure of working with some of the top insurance agents in North America and a ton of insurance agents from the country of Australia. The boys from down under, I had done a speaking engagement there on my honeymoon, and I had a lot of clients from Australia. But no matter what I did those first 2 years with my consulting business, I wasn't able to smash through the ceiling of around 100 clients. I had 100 subscribers to my newsletter. I had about 100 subscribers to my monthly webinar. I was, in a mastermind, I would have just the one mastermind with 18 insurance agents. So whatever I did, no matter how much promotion I did, no matter how much word of mouth, no matter what I tested and tried, I could not break through that ceiling of 100 clients. And the problem with that was I wasn't charging enough money. I was charging $197 a month for my newsletter and my webinar training, and I had 100 clients. It was a 5-figure business. And my dream, wow, big truck. That's called commerce. My mom always says the highways are so busy, and I go, they better be, Mom. I said, that's a sign of commerce. That's a sign of money moving. That's a sign of things being built and created and sold. And I want those railways busy. I want those highways busy. I want those waterways busy. My dad always grins. My mom wants the roads quiet so she can go out for her morning walk and not be disturbed. I want activity and action so that the economy will flourish and people will do, businessmen, entrepreneurs, businesswomen will do smashingly well. So here's another big boy. Another big boy. That's Kavanaugh Construction. The great Thomas Kavanaugh, who just passed away 2 years ago, he built that $1 billion construction company. That truck that just went by, he built that $1 billion construction company. He's got 800 trucks. He does the freeways now. He does the highways. He builds sports arenas. He does it all. His boys, they run it now. He started that company when he was in his 20s with one truck. Kavanaugh Construction with one truck. And when he had his funeral 2 years ago, they said at the funeral, Kavanaugh Construction now had 800 trucks on the road. They own something like over 50 gravel pits, and they were easily $1 billion company, but they were charging in the hundreds. They were invoicing in the hundreds of millions per year in the road construction business. Just shows what one man or one woman can do with a dream and a goal and some blood, sweat, and tears. Started it with one pickup truck, grew it to 800 trucks, grew it to $1 billion business. Still lived in the house that he bought when he was married, a split-level home in Ottawa. He still went to work with his work boots on at age 80, had his boys working in there, blue collar work ethic. And the man died working. They say he bought a house in Florida years and years ago for the winter, for him and his wife to go and spend the winter, get out of the Canadian winter. And they say Tommy went there for 5 days, and he said to his wife, "You just stay here and enjoy the the good weather." He goes, "I'm going back to work." And he flew back home, and he went back to work. And the only person who used that Florida home was his wife through the years. So love the story of Thomas Cavanaugh. So I was a little down about the fact that I couldn't break the ceiling of 100 clients, and I wasn't helping as many men as I wanted to, and I wasn't making the money that I desired. So I'll never forget the conversation I had with my best friend, secret weapon queen, Krista. One night I came home on a Friday, and you have to remember I was still in the business. I was consulting. I wasn't a pretend expert or a wet behind the ears guru. I was still running a $17 million insurance agency. So I came home on a Friday night, and I remember I sat on the end of the dock and had a drink with my wife, and we were sitting there, and I was moaning and complaining and whining and making excuses. I can't grow this the way I want to. I can't scale my consulting business. I can't get the right clients, can't get the right guys, can't get enough subscribers for my newsletter. Blah, 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 blah. And after my whining and crying and complaining, about 20 minutes, my wife, we're sitting on the end of the dock, she turns and she looks at me and she says, "The reason you can't grow Renegade Insurance Marketing to where you want it is because you're playing small." So that was one that almost knocked me off my chair, because I pride and have always prided myself on being a balls to the wall businessman and entrepreneur. If I buy a hockey team that's bankrupt, I blow it up into the number one hockey team in that league, the number one franchise, number one in attendance. I blow it up into the biggest and baddest that I can. When I took over my dad's insurance agency, we were $3.5 million. I grew that thing to $17 million by blowing it up, transforming it into the biggest and baddest personal lines insurance agency in the whole country. 7 consecutive years number one in home and car production. When I dream a barbershop and start a barbershop business, for 6 years I blew that thing up into the number one barbershop, 6 years running as I shoot this video, into the biggest and baddest balls to the wall barbershop in the country. So I've always prided myself on thinking big. I've always prided myself on swinging for the fences. I've always prided myself on playing to win. I'm not afraid to push all my chips into the middle of the table and risk it all intelligently to gain it all. Because I believe in myself. I know that I'm a producer. I know I'm a rainmaker. I know that I'm a marketer, and that if I lose something, I can quickly regain it, because I'm a producer. I can make it rain anywhere at any time. So this really shocked me when my wife said that I was playing small and playing to lose. And she said the only reason you can't grow this thing to a 7-figure business, the only reason you can't get this to 500 plus clients, the only reason you can't have 2 or 3 masterminds is because you're playing small and you're thinking small. And I'll never forget, I had to digest that for that weekend. I thought about it on Saturday. I thought about it on Sunday. And then I finally realized that my wife was, as the great Brene Brown, badass Brene Brown says, she clear is kind, unclear is unkind. My wife was absolutely, positively 100% correct. And she was one of the only few people in my world at the time who had the guts to tell me that I was the problem. And the exciting thing about you being the problem, we're all the problem. We're 100% responsible for every result, good or bad, in our lives, period. And you want that, because when I finally recognized that I was the problem, I realized that I was the solution. There's power in that. There's power in knowing that you're in control. There's power in knowing that you're in control of your personal sovereignty. So after I smartened up and had a couple talks with myself, I talked to my wife a little bit more about it that coming week. And she said, what's the one thing that you can do to scale this business from 5 to 6 to 7 figures? What's the one thing that you can do to scale, to grow this membership of your newsletter, your webinars, and your masterminds to help more insurance agents? Because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make money, and I wanted to help as many insurance agents in the world as I could live life and do business on their own terms, because that's what I was doing in my own life. And I gave that some thought for a couple of days, and I actually knew the answer. I said, I really think that I need to belong to a mastermind. I said, I'm out here in Canada, I'm doing my thing, I'm selling lots of insurance, things are good, but the problem is this: Michael McLean doesn't have any accountability. If I want to go to work at 6, I go to work at 6. If I don't want to go to work till 8, I don't have to go to work till 8. I was completely on my own, and I was very lonely in the business. I didn't have anybody in my community who was a marketer or had that balls to the wall mentality. So other than my wife, I was alone in this business world. I had my dad, who I talked to every day, but as entrepreneurs, it's the loneliest job in the world. And at the end of the day, I didn't have anybody that could hold me accountable. I didn't have anybody that would push me to the next level. If I wanted to accept my excuses, well, I only have 100 clients and, the guys just aren't buying my stuff, then there was nobody to hold my feet to the fire. So I sat down with Krista on the boat, and I said, this is something I really want to do. And I brought her some information. She looked at it and she said, what are you waiting for? And I said, well, I'd like to join Bill Glazier and Dan Kennedy's mastermind. And, it's the best of the best. Anybody that's in the consulting or information selling niche, anybody that's a coach is in this mastermind. So then I started my laundry list of excuses. Well, I might not get in. I have to apply. It's $30,000 American for the year. I mean, that's $40,000 Canadian, just so you know. I mean, at the time, I just didn't have that money. I didn't have that money. No matter, I was paying off my dad's agency. I didn't have any extra money. And I said, in that group, there's Russell Brunson's in there, and Michael Cage, and Beth Davis, and all these 7- and 8-figure coaches and consultants. I don't know if I really belong in there. Maybe there's something smaller I could do. And that's where Krista said to me, she said, that's exactly your problem. She said, you're thinking big in the insurance business. You're thinking big in the hockey business. You're thinking big in your personal life. She said, you're playing not to lose when it comes to your consulting business. And I said, okay, that's it. That's all. I'm going to find the money, and I'm going to apply, and I'm going to step up into the big leagues. I'm going to grow this business to 500 plus members, and I'm going to start playing to win. I'm sick and tired of playing small and not having any impact or making any money. So I went through the process the next day. I remember on my computer at the office at McLean Insurance, I went through online and I went through the process of filling out the application. It was called the Titanium Info Mastermind, Titanium Information Mastermind. And I was nervous just filling out the form. And then I got to the end where, can you afford the $30,000? And I was like, yes, tick. And I remember pressing send, and I was like, I don't think my life is ever going to be the same again. And a couple of days later, I got a fax at the office. Yeah, a fax. Bill was the same as Dan. And it said, I'm gonna set up a call where you talk to Bill Glazier. And I remember the call was at 7 p.m. at night. That's how hard Glazier worked. 7 o'clock at night was when he would do his phone calls. And he was running GKIC at the time, and Dan was a consultant. So I'll never forget how wound up and nervous I was for that phone call. He made me send a package of all of my marketing, all my newsletters, all my flyers, all my postcards, my referral program, anything and everything online and offline that I was doing with any of my companies. And I remember sending him one of those yellow bubble envelopes, and it was literally 4 inches thick. And I put, black Sharpie, Bill Glazier, Baltimore, Maryland on it. So he got this, and he had it open. He went through it before our call. So when I got on my call with him, we talked a little bit about, what's expected in the group. You have to give. It's not just take. There's 3 meetings in Baltimore at a hotel. They're 2-day meetings. This is included 1 call per month with Bill, fax, access, this kind of stuff, the usual mastermind stuff. And I'll never forget, saying to him, well, when will I know if I'm accepted? Because I got to get the money together. And he said, I just went through your marketing package here that you sent me, this fucking brick that you sent me. And he said, he says, I'll talk to Dan, but he says, in my opinion, he says, you're a green light, go. And I'll never forget that. That was one of the moments where I said, you know what? I'm now in a different world. I'm now in a different league. Sure, I'm the weakest member in that mastermind. I'm the newest member in that mastermind. My company makes the least amount of money in that mastermind. And I'm probably stretching to be in there with those people. But that's exactly where I need to be. I need somebody to hold Michael McLean accountable. I need somebody to grow my business. I need to be rubbing shoulders with Bill Glazier. I need to be rubbing shoulders with Dan Kennedy. I need to be rubbing shoulders with Michael Cage. I need to be rubbing shoulders with Russell Brunson. I need to be rubbing shoulders and making friendships with people like Beth Davis. And that's exactly what I did. Chris and I hopped in the Escalade, and I'll never forget, we drove from here to Baltimore, and Bill would put us up in these shitty 3.5-star hotels. He didn't give a crap about any of that stuff. He was the antithesis of 5-star. And we'd stay at like this cheap Marriott, and he'd have a room in the basement, and we'd meet there for 2 days. Like, who cares, right? And we would drive from here to Baltimore, which was 8 hours. And those were some of the most memorable drives of my life, because I would drive, and my wife and I would talk about our life, where we want to go, do we want kids, where we want to live, where do I want to go with these companies, what are her dreams, what are my goals. And that's all we do on those trips to Baltimore. 8 hours there, 8 hours back. We talk about life. And then we get there for 2 days, and we were immersed. I mean, that first meeting, I'll never forget. Like, I'm a guy who sleeps at night. I mean, I don't fear another human being on this earth, and period. I have almost zero fear when it comes to most things. But admittedly, I was so nervous that night before that I barely slept at all. And then when I got up that morning, I got up at 5 a.m, I showered, I put on my suit, the whole thing. And I'll never forget that walk downstairs into the basement of the Marriott. And into there, I didn't know one single person besides Glazier. And if you know Bill, I mean, he's a pretty aloof guy. He's not gonna introduce you or anything like that. So I went down and enjoyed a little bit of breakfast. I was too nervous to eat. Krista joined me. You're allowed to bring a member of your business or your family to these masterminds. So Krista never missed one. She was right by my side in every single meeting. And I'll never forget the first day, just being in there and listening to the hot seats. Everybody talks for 45 minutes. You get up there on the hot seat and everybody works on your business. And I was just blown away. Guys doing and gals doing $2 million a year. Some people doing $1 million a month. And I was a five figure, and they had everything going on, and they were hard workers too, husbands and wives. There was there was two guys who ended up great friends of ours. We stayed at their house in Australia. Mark Selps, my good friend and sometimes private client, they would fly in from Australia to these meetings. That's a 23-hour flight, and they would fly in for 2 or 3 days with Glazier and Kennedy. So you saw all levels of commitment, you saw all levels of standards, and just amazing stuff. But the bottom line is that second day I had to present, and that's where it all changed for me. That's where I felt at home. I get up there, I talked about my insurance company, I talked about my personal life, and then I talked about my coaching business and where I wanted to go with it. And I remember Russell Brunson and Cage and Mark Selps and Glazier and Beth and all these people, they just tore it apart. And they were like, you got to stop doing this, stop doing this, stop doing this, stop doing this, and only do this one thing. Stop this, no, say no to this, no to this, no to this, no to this, say yes to this one thing. That's all your focus. Every day do this, every day do this, every day, one thing, one thing, one thing. And after that first meeting, my membership grew to 200 members. And then we had a second meeting. By the second meeting, my group was up to 300 paying members at a couple hundred a month. But most importantly, I was impacting more men. And then after that, Bill Glazier said, Michael, would you like to speak at the Outrageous Academy that he was putting on? It was a big seminar for, they had the GoDaddy founder there speaking. I was actually on just before him, so I had the Saturday night spot. And I spoke up there showing all my marketing, my swipe file, showing my flyers, my newsletters, all my crazy marketing. And at the end, I was able to pitch my swipe file. And I remember that's where I got some of my best clients ever, like the Willie Mirandas, who are still with me, top 1% guys. And I was able to add another 100, over 100 people at that speaking thing. So Bill opened doors for you if you were in his mastermind. And then that year, Bill pulled me aside and he said, Michael, he said, you need to apply for GKIC Marketer of the Year. He said, there's 30,000 members in GKIC. He said, you need to apply for Marketer of the Year. Send in all your stuff, he said, and compete for that. It's a big deal. So I sent in my big package. It was like 5 inches thick. It was all my marketing, all my promotion, all my community fundraising. I put a video in there. I had DVDs, my TV ads, everything under the sun. And I got news back about a month later that I was one of the 3 finalists. And when I went to the super conference in Dallas that year, this is 2010, he said, you're going to be one of the 3 finalists. I'll never forget, they get the 3 of us up there on the stage in front of 2,000 people. And all of a sudden they say, we're not going to announce who the winner is. It was me and 2 other guys. They said, we're going to do an apprentice style competition. The Apprentice was really hot then. It was just starting with Trump. And I was like, shit. I said, I thought I was just going to win or lose here. And they said, over the next 3 days of the super conference, here's your task. And they gave us a business to build out of scratch, a bakery, online and offline, and actually have sales by the 3rd day. And then after the 3rd day, we had to get back up on the stage, and all the judges, Ali Brown, Dan Kennedy, Bill Glazier, would judge who the real winner is. So I was sent on an apprentice style contest for the 3 days of the super conference. So I remember going back to my room and I was like, shit, I put so much work into this other thing and now I got to do this and I'm going to be working my ass off for the next 3 days. And then when I got over myself and Krista came and talked to me, she said, just win the goddamn thing. Just win it. Just win it. It'll do so much for your business, your confidence. It'll do so much for helping other people. Just win the damn thing. And when she said that to me, I was like, okay, that's it. And some of my mastermind members jumped on board and helped me. I remember James Malachek helping me. We had a guy in our mastermind who worked with Google on getting your business to the first page. This guy, Timothy Stewart, he's a wizard. He's a wizard. And he goes, Michael, I'll get your bakery, your imaginary bakery. He goes, I'll get it #1 in the United States on Google. This is going back 2010. Timothy Stewart, amazing guy. And so I had guys like James Malachek doing testimonials. I had guys, my guys like Mike Stromso and Russ Lowry and Tom Larson helping me, guys that have been with me as clients for years, friends and clients. And we literally worked 18 hours a day. And I worked nonstop for 3 days, creating this imaginary bakery, online websites, landing pages, ads we were going to use, products, the whole thing. And I'll never forget when I got up on stage with the other guys. The other guys did a pretty good job. When I got up there, we had live sales. Our website, when we were on stage, was selling bakery. We were selling pies. We were selling cakes. As I was up there talking, you had 15 minutes to present your bakery. So as I was up there, it was ding, ding, ding. And then I had testimonials and the whole thing. And that was because we were #1 on Google. Like, he just went to the back, Tim, and he was just like, there, you're #1. Like, just insanity. So when all was said and done, I was announced the winner. And I'll never forget how great that felt, because it was a complete team effort. Some of my mastermind buddies helped me out. And of course, my real friends from long ago, we've been friends forever, the Russ Lowrys of the world and the Tom Larsons and the Mike Stromsos and my wife Krista and Beth Davis. Man, they were the reason I did win. So pretty exciting, and none of this would have happened without my involvement in Bill's mastermind. The bottom line for you, 12 months in his mastermind, I broke my ceiling, my goal of 500 members. That was my goal. I broke 500 members after 12 months in that $30,000 mastermind, on the way to 1,000 members. I went from 5 figures to mid six figures. And then down the road, I had a few years, I had my first 7-figure $1 million year. And, I had the pleasure then of doing all these other things like masterminds and at a bigger audience, which I was making more of an impact. So with that story, I want to let you know that I'm introducing a brand new top 5% Badass World Builder Mastermind. I have my Champions $50,000 mastermind for the top 1% of 1%. But you know what? A lot of people, a lot of businessmen that I want to assist, they can't help. They can't help. I can't help them if they can't afford $50,000, and I totally understand that. So what I've been thinking and what I decided to do was to do a 12-month online mastermind where I do a teaching on Zoom every 2 weeks, 25 Zooms, sessions per year. I bring in some special guys once a quarter. I'm going to interview Tim Grover from the coach, Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and Charles Barkley's coach. I'm going to do a Zoom interview with Tim in the first quarter. I'm going to bring in Sheldon Keefe. If I can put that together in one of the quarters for an hour Zoom call interview, I'll interview these guys. I'm going to contact Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, and get him on there for an interview in one of the quarters. There's other guys on the list. One of the guys I like, Andy Frisella, I'd like to get him on there, 75 Hard. So I'm going to do a celebrity coach every quarter as well. So I'm going to coach every 2 weeks for about 90 minutes. And then I'm going to, every quarter, I'm going to bring in a celebrity and I'll interview him live on the screen as well. We'll have our locker room. We'll have our brotherhood. There's only going to be 50 men. There's no women. It's men in this mastermind. It's all online. There's no travel. There's no hotels. There's no flights. It's 12 months online. And you'll be working with 50 other men. Sometimes we'll be working on individual businesses. I'll be sharing the best of the best that I'm learning every 2 weeks. I'll be teaching a tactic and a strategy every 2 weeks. So there's 25 trainings throughout the year, plus the celebrity trainings. Plus you're going to have one. It's the only way to get personal coaching from me. because you're going to have fax access to me. You're going to have email access to me through Leanne, my assistant, and you're going to have, you have a question, I'll do question and answers. You can email me, you can whatever. And we're going to do this throughout the year. And this is going to be designed to help you do what Bill Glazier's and Dan Kennedy's mastermind did for me, to help you scale your business from 5 to 6. This is for 5 and 6 figure businessmen. It's not for 7 and 8. This is for guys that want to get to 7. So if you're a 5-figure earner, if you're a 6-figure earner, this is exactly for you. You're a top 5%er and you want to get to a top 1%er. You want to improve your marketing, your marriage, your relationship with your kids, your physical and mental health. You want to give back more in the community. You want to grow from 5 figures to 6 to 7. Then that's what this mastermind is exactly for. So enough yammering on about that. If you're interested in applying, you need to go to badassworldbuilder.com. That's badassworldbuilder.com. I'll put the link below there in case I have that incorrect. I'll put the link below this video and I'll put it in the PS of the email. But you need to apply. I want to start this before the end of the year. 50 businessmen only. It's expensive. It's $9,000. It's $9,800. There's no payment plans. There's no warranties. There's no money back. You're all in or you're all out. You're all in or you're all out. If you're an excuse maker, or if you're a guy who can't take hard coaching, if you're a man that's satisfied at 5 figures, if you're satisfied at low 6 figures, then this isn't for you. This is for top 5% businessmen that want to get to 6 and 7 figures this year. This is for men that want to 2x everything in their life. They want to double their income. They want to double the happiness in their marriage, double the connection with their children. They want to get in the best physical and mental shape of their lives. Like, we're going to 2x everything. That's not easy. That's hard to double everything in your life. So that's what we're looking at. So just make sure that if that's something that interests you, you go there. There's 5 questions. Tell me your story and apply today. That's it. Remember to hug and kiss your children and tell them how much they mean to you. If they're not their way at college, make sure that they hear from you every single day. Make sure you're buried in their life and they know how much they mean to you. 2 words now. 2 words that have changed my life. 2 words that can change your life. Be relentless.